Hello, this is Doug Radunich with TooeleTV. Today we're going to be speaking with local Tooele author Scott Bryan. He's the author of, as you can see, the Night Children series. And he's just here at the book festival talking about his book and having some fun with the kids. First off, Scott, how long have you lived in Tooele, or how long have you been writing here in Tooele?
I've been living in Tooele since 1983, so I've been here for quite a while. I'm quite a Tooeleite. And I've been writing since, probably officially writing since 1998. But I've always had ideas and stories that I've shared with people, but I've actually officially started writing at that time. And I started this series in 2004.
Great.
So.
And what kind of got you interested in writing? Like, kind of what's your background in writing?
Well, I've always had an interest in creating stories. I think up stories. I would do, if I like to do a janitorial job, for instance, my mind would be constantly active on stories. I'm currently a drafter as my full-time job, and my mind, again, thinks of stories. And I saw a movie that really kind of inspired me to write about vampire children who are more of a hero, not really a villain. They're more like Harry Potter, Percy Jackson. See, I love reading as well. And so these kind of characters I like to read about. So I thought maybe I'd share my own ideas and create a novel out of it. Yeah. So that's where the idea started from.
Oh, great. So what kind of happens in the Night Children series? Like, what do the characters go through and end up doing?
Well, the Night Children series is different than most vampire stories, because most vampire stories take place nowadays, and the protagonist, the person that you meet, that you can relate with in the story, meets the vampire. Like, for instance, in Darren Chan's Vampire Assistant, or in Twilight. In my stories, the protagonist, the main character, becomes the vampire right away. And instead of doing this where you meet this vampire nowadays, and all the story's over with by that time, I decide, let's see that story. So I set it back 300 years in the past. So we have these children come over to colonial America in Massachusetts, and they wind up through a series of unfortunate circumstances becoming vampires. And they become orphans, much like Harry Potter or Batman. They have to become the hero because there's no one else to do that for them. And they have to learn, now I'm a vampire, how do I deal with these abilities, and how do I protect myself and those people that I care about? Yeah. So they're really people who happen to have this vampire ability they have to learn to deal with.
Oh, yeah. So. Yeah, that sounds kind of cool. That sounds like a book that I'd be interested in and want to read. So, what are some of the other books you've written, or other books that you have planned to write?
I have this big plan for this story called Myths. And what happens is it's kind of a Percy Jackson / Lord of the Rings type deal, because you have these this world where everything, all the mythical creatures that used to live on Earth went there, and they live on this mythical world. And it went through the same centuries that we've went through, where we developed science, they developed magic. So on this world, you have an S-pod instead of an iPod, that sort of thing, a spell pod. Magic creates all the technology. Well, as you typically have in most stories, you got a group of children, teenagers, who are disgruntled with their parents, with their world. And one of them, a sorcerer apprentice, he's heard about this mythical world called Earth. So he thinks, hey, I believe this mythical world comes true. Yeah. When he finds out that his uncle, the sorcerer apprentice, the actual sorcerer, has this tome, this book that's true, there really is an Earth, he convinces the elf boy and the dragon girl and so on to go there. So they go to Stonehenge. Wow, there's a Stonehenge in every world. They go to Stonehenge and wind up smack dab in the salt flats, because the sorcerer apprentice didn't realize that she was a dragon. And there's a fairy, there's a unicorn. He didn't figure this out. He's just a new sorcerer kid. And so it messes up. They show up at Stonehenge in London, and whoop, the next magical place is the salt flats. And so they wind up here, and the government picks them up and basically puts them in Tooele and relocates them and tries to have these mythical beings live a life here in Tooele, going to junior high and so on. So you have an elf and a dragon and a faun, and all these trying to relocate themselves in our community. Yeah. So it's kind of a kick to ride. I'm midway through the story, and it's pretty fun. So.
Yeah, no, I think Tooele County residents are really going to appreciate that. They'll be like, wow, this is all about where we live.
Well, I've read several books, and I've read Twilight, and I see what her books say in one of the towns that she's lived in. of how that affected that town, how it helped their community. And I thought, why don't I do the same thing and bring these characters in here? You're supposed to write what you know, and I know Tooele. So
yeah, why not? Yeah,
yeah, and you know, what would an elf think about, say, Walmart? What would a fawn or a satyr think about those things? Or a dragon, you know, what would they think about junior high school? You know, and the things that go on there, and how would they handle it? So that's kind of the idea. So.
So do you find that a lot of people recognize you around town, you know, since you're a local Tooele?
A little bit. A few people do. I've been appearing at the junior high and the high school and some of the elementary schools, and they're starting to notice, and that's good, because I'm not doing this to become J.K. Rowling.
Right.
I would love to be a professional author. I would love to do this for a full-time living. I like my drafting job, but I would love to do as an author. Anyone who knows me knows I'd rather be sharing my stories.
Yeah, it's a fun job.
But the thing about it is what I really want is for the kids to see these characters, to see, say, Annabelle struggling with, you know, I don't want to hurt people, so I'm going to eat animals, how the struggle is with the cravings. Here's a big bad werewolf, I want to rescue my human friend. I'm scared, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
And I want a kid who's going through abuse, who's going through neglect, who's going through just bullies, to see this and go, if she can do this, I can do this. I can rise up against my problems. And, you know, it also helps to have kids who want to be writers see that you can do this as well. You can become an author. That's why I'm doing it. And so if I see a kid at Walmart who says, "You're Scott Bryan," that makes me feel happy, because you're reading my book. You're learning something about writing or learning something about characters that lift you up. That's all I want. So.
Yeah, and I think kids can definitely learn about how to write and craft a story just from reading and reading and reading so many different books, especially books they really enjoy. Thanks for speaking with me, Scott. Yeah, this is Doug Radunich with TooeleTV.